Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for your patience in getting started, and thank you to those of you online in our online audience. My name is Lauren Topaz-Donay. I am here with Stamford Cradle to Career, and we're excited to partner with Stamford Public Schools to bring this workshop to you all tonight on how to help your young students learn to read better and ways that you can support that at home. A couple quick housekeeping items. We may be taking some photos just to share the great work. We are recording tonight's session in English and in Spanish so that you'll have access and others will have access to this after the fact. And thank you to our wonderful interpreters. We have Alba in the back here in person and Camilla online. And without further ado, I will pass it over to Cynthia Manifold, who will be leading our session tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, hola, welcome everyone. We're so glad you're here today. I wanted to acknowledge my boss. It's here. This is Amy Belgatti in the back.
Hey, everyone.
She is the Associate Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and welcomes you as do I here. We're so glad you're here. We know you had to battle the wind and the rain and late night, so we do appreciate you being here today. Thank you. If at any point during our conversation you have any questions, please just raise your hand. We're happy to answer questions as we go along. Am I good with Steve? Good with Steve? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So today we're talking about early grade reading and supporting our students at home with their foundational literacy skills. As Lauren mentioned, my name is Cynthia Manifold-Doherty. I'm with Stamford Public Schools. I am the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment for our elementary students. It looks like we have mostly elementary. Can you just show your hand with a kindergarten student? Kindergarten? Thank you. What about grade 1? Grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, 5, any 6 or more? All right, so we're going to be primarily talking about the early skills for literacy, etc. So let's look at it. So our goal for tonight, our participants are getting an understanding on how to better participate with your child's report card conferences. Those are coming up next month, and we want to make sure that you feel prepared and ready to participate in those questions. And then we also want you to know about having an understanding about these foundational literacy skills we're going to talk about. And then finally, the big one, I think, is how you can support athletes. Stamford Public Schools thinks about our families as a triangle. So we have our students at the top. They're the most important, certainly. And we have our families over here, and then our teachers on this corner. So together, we're all working to support our students at the top. So we have our report card conferences coming up. Starting on December 9th, which is a Friday, you will have access through your parent portal to be able to see your child's report card. We recommend that, that you do that so that when you go to conferences on December 14th, 15th, or 16th, that you've seen the report card. If you're having any trouble accessing the report card, we'll talk about what you can do to make sure you can see it. Oh, and just a reminder, our students are having early release on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, so our teachers are available to meet with our students. So our K-2 kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 report card has been through some changes, and that is really in response to the science of reading. Perhaps the way I learned how to read and you learned how to read, we have better information so that we can meet the needs of our students better. So there are some foundational literacy skills that we've talked about. These are some of them. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by them. And I will tell you, you can always Google these to see some examples of it, but I'm just going to talk about them very briefly. The print concepts are the part of a book. So whenever we get a book with a student, the print concept is how we can access the book. Our phonological awareness are sounds. So all of our sounds in English, we have 26 letters, and then we have sounds that go along with them. In the classrooms, the teachers will make sure that your students not only know the letters, to name the letters, but also know the sounds. When they know the sounds, they can put together words and then bigger words and bigger words. So that's one of the foundational skills to make sure. That is all done by ear. We're not showing them any letters yet. It's just training their ears to hear the different sounds. When I'm speaking now, it's hard to hear what word is after the other because when we speak, we talk faster than that. But for our students, we really need to break the words and sounds apart so we train their ears to hear them. Phonics are the letters and sounds. So that's when we're looking at the letters and the sounds. We know that many of your students, you've given them a gift. And the gift is that they have another language. Perhaps you speak another language at home. We're going to talk about that with response to our letters. We know that some of the letters have different sounds. For example, in English, a short A is a, but in Spanish, it is a. Students can learn both and be successful readers. We'll work on with the English ones in the classroom, but our teachers are also aware that our other languages have other sounds as well. And then encoding is when you're spelling the words. So first we need to know the letters, then we need to know the sounds, then we can build words in encoding and put the words together. Oral language is the next part on the report card. Oral language is when you're speaking ideas and responding. Perhaps for you, I will speak for myself. I have 2 children at home. Now they're very big, they're big kids. However, when they were little, I found I was talking all the time. Go clean your room, go brush your teeth. What are you doing? What have you been doing? And they're like, enough, right? So what I would encourage you to do is just and let the children speak to you as well. It's very important when you're speaking to them because you're teaching them what words sound like, how a conversation goes. But it's also very important to kind of stop and let them answer you as well. And then to bite your tongue and let them do the talk. And I know as a parent, that was very hard for me to do that because I had so much to tell them. But I'm just saying to you, if you can let them do the talking, and we'll give you some strategies, it's very helpful.
Okay.
Writing is the next piece. So oral language is when you're making the expressing what's in your mind. Writing is when it goes down from your brain, down to your arm, and the students are writing what they're thinking. And that is a higher level skill for them, especially our kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, because it takes a lot of effort to hold a pen or a pencil, to form the letters, wave their hands like, oh, my hand, right? And then got to practice holding it again. And we can do it hand over hand and help them do it. So feel free to have them write in the sky. If you say, write the letter A, write the letter A, they can do it in the sky. That's much easier for them than writing on paper. So we can start big and then go small. Then we have math, social studies, science, and then they go to specials, which they love. So specials might be gym, music, art, and physical education. So they're tired when they come home. It's been a long day for them. They're going the whole day long. So we want to make sure what we're doing at home is supporting that and not giving them one more thing to do so that they're like, no, too much. I've been working all day long, which they have been, and they've been working really hard. So when we're doing things with them, we want to make sure it's very deliberate and purposeful. It doesn't wear them out. I do also want to mention, we look at work habits. Sorry, my daughter. We want to look at work habits and behavior. So that helps them be ready to learn, right? So we're looking at things like if they're trying hard and if they're able to follow directions, one-step directions or two directions. And then finally, I just want to mention that our English learners, starting this year, will get an insert for how they're working with their English learner teacher. And they'll be addressing what they're doing in that classroom with them. So that'll be some more information for you. Are there any questions about this so far? See how I stopped? It was hard, but I wanted to see if you all had something to say, right? So we're just modeling that for you. Okay, so let's look forward. So conference time. So teachers are going to schedule conferences that work for you, convenient for you. They're between about 15 and 20 minutes. That goes really fast, very, very fast. So that's why if you can see the report card first, you can see how your child is doing in the classroom, and then ask questions to your child, about your child. So as I mentioned, we can access their report card on December 9th. That's when it's released and it's on your parent portal. Is anyone here? Can you raise your hand? Has anyone already been in the parent portal? And so some. Okay. If you have not, please talk to your parent facilitator at your school. They can help you with your login information. And now you can also set the setting for the language that you speak at home. So you'll be able to see the report card in your home language as well. Please remember, just as we had an interpreter here for you, you can always ask for an interpreter at your child's school to be able to understand the teacher better. You just need to send a note and just say, it would be helpful to me if I had someone speaking in Spanish or in Haitian Creole, whichever language it is, so that they can help you in the report card conference. We think it's a good idea if you have some questions in your mind when you go to the conferences, so you can find out more about your child. Because this is a conference for you. It's your time to hear about what's going well with your child, what we still need to work at, how they're being successful already, and what we can do to move them along further. And then I will just say that teachers will not be able to discuss everything during the report card time. So you might want to think about some things you really want to talk about. And so you might want to know, are they happy? Because we want our kids to be happy at school. We have a long time for them to be at school. And we want them to be happy in kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, because there's a long way left to go. So it's perfectly fine for you to say to your teacher, is my child happy? Do they like going to school? Right? So we want to build that partnership. So if there's anything your teacher can help you with at home, and you can help with at school, because your teacher might say, listen, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to have your child answer. Like, they're so quiet. And I really want them to participate. What works for you? And you might have some ideas to share with the teacher. And we really need your input on that, because we know you were the first teachers for your child. And it's really important for us to know what works for you at home, so we can do that at school as well. And that just helps your children. All right, so we put together some sample questions that you can ask your teacher at a conference. One question is, what are my child's strengths? What are they doing really well? We want to hear that, right? It's like, oh, help me on the back. My child's doing this well. That's a reflection on you. That's your hard work. A lot of pushing. Come on, a lot of pride. That's your hard work. As I said, you were the first teacher for your child. Then there might be some areas that your child could be better at. That's for everybody. We can always be better at something that we're doing. And when you ask your teacher, what can my child grow with? What do they need extra help with? That just helps us know how to help them. Something else is, you ever ask your child, how was your day? Good. What did you do? Nothing. Like, come on, work with me here. What do you mean you did nothing? I saw what you did. You went to gym, you went to art, you went to music, you had foundational skills, you were spelling, you were reading, you were writing. You got nothing, right? So sometimes instead of saying, how was your day? What did you do? You can say, tell me about reading. Tell me about what you did in social studies. And it's not a yes or no answer, kind of, and then you're quiet, and then you wait for them to talk to you. As a parent, I found those conversations were better if I was not looking at them. If I was doing the dishes, I just had my ears listening. Or if I was on the bus and I was listening to them, but I wasn't looking at them. Because when you're looking at them, you're like, oh my gosh, what? What have you heard about my day? Did my teacher call you? Am I in trouble? No, I just want to know about your day, darling, because I love you and I care about you, right? So try that, not looking at them, just going about your life, but don't look. Try that. That worked for me. Next, another question is, what can we do at home to encourage, what can we do at home to encourage growth? So you said that my child needs to get better at spelling. How can I help that at home? Give me the secret knock. What is it that my child needs that I could help? But look at this, in a fun way. We don't want to have them work for 7 hours at school. Then they come home and we work with them for 2 more hours. That's going to make them tired, unhappy, not wanting to spend time with you. So we don't want that. But if there's a fun way we could do it, and we'll talk about some strategies, that's what we encourage you to do. And again, all that can be done in your native language. We're not asking you to do that in English. We're asking you to do that in a language that's comfortable for you already. As I said, if your child speaks another language, that's a gift. You've given them a gift. I speak one language. Your child speaks another language. They know one more language than I do, and that is a gift. So we're asking you to celebrate that and to continue speaking with them in your native language, in your home language. Here's 4. Are there behaviors you see at school, both good and bad, that I need to be aware of? I always think about my children. They would come home and say, my teacher was mad at me. And my first child, I'm like, what is going on with that teacher? But by my second child, I said, what did you do? Why is the teacher so angry? Is there something that maybe you did to help get them angry? Right? We want to know the whole story. That gives kids some coping skills, and they see cause and effect. If I misbehave, people get mad. That's okay. We want your teacher to get unmad at you. So what can we do to have you to be the best student you can be in your classroom? And do you notice any difficulties my child is having socially at school? I think parents want their kids to be happy, healthy, safe, and be ready for the next grade. And if they're not happy, then we need to figure out a way to get them happier so they're ready to learn. All right. I will tell you too, as a teacher, I'm a teacher and a mother. And when my son was in 1st grade, he wrote in his journal, we have a rat. It's bit me. And my son's teacher, okay, so there might be a problem. Do you have a rat in your house? I'm like, what are you speaking about? And she goes, well, your son wrote that you have a rat and it bit you, and it bit him. Is that true? Is that going on? And I'm like, no, that is not going on in our house. Thank you for calling. And she had to call. She had to check on my child, because just like we want our kids to be happy, healthy, and safe and ready for the next grade, our teachers want our kids to be happy, healthy, safe, and ready for the next grade. Why my son wrote that is because he knew the sound at rats, and he was very proud that he could write that down. So a rat, but it bit me, and that's where that story came from. So know that your teacher is going to hear things from home and maybe ask you about them. She's doing that from a place of love and concern. Just like when your children come home and say, my teacher was mad at me, you're asking about that from a place of love and concern. Remember our triangle. Kids are at the top. We want them to be ready. Okay, anything about report card or conferences? Anything that you'd like to ask about that? Please.
A mí, para mí se me hace muy difícil comprender cuando llegan las calificaciones. No he podido comprender, aunque ya tengo un niño y quisiera entender cuáles son, qué debo, ¿cómo te digo? Entender las calificaciones que vienen siempre para mí.
So for me, it's very difficult to understand the grades, how our report cards are sent home. So just reading them.
Okay. So report cards go home, they have the computer, which is the parent portal, so you can look up at that. If you want a printed copy, please ask your teacher and they can print a copy for you to see. Does that help? Yeah. Well, I will say we recommend that you try to do it online because you get it faster that way. And that way you can see it faster than having to wait for the printout. But we're happy to do that as well. Any other questions about conferences or the report card?
No, era contenido.
No, I didn't answer.
Yeah, I know, I kind of like,
Okay.
question was basically the content of the report card. Not how she gets it, like, not how it gets delivered, but the content of the report card is what she doesn't understand.
Okay, so the content.
Yes.
Content. Okay. So, no, thank you. I appreciate that. If I don't answer, please let me know. So the report card can, the teacher can definitely slow that down for you when she's explaining it with your child in particular. It is, I can understand why it would be difficult to understand. When I was in school, we didn't have words like print concept, phonemic awareness. We did not have that, so I understand that's something new. I would recommend too, if you have a phone, you can definitely Google and get some ideas of it. We are going to talk about some strategies of ways you can help at home, and maybe that'll get a little clearer for you. But if not, please call me. I'm going to give you my email and we'll figure that out. Okay? Thank you.
And Cynthia, there's one question online. If I think the grades are available yet on the portal, or when will the grades
December
be
9th.
available?
December 9th.
December 9th.
December 9th. It's a Friday. Just in time for the meeting. Yes, please. Yes. It should be the same. And I know when you're looking on your phone, it's small, so that might be harder to see. So again, if you can see it online, on your phone or online, try that, but if not, it can be printed for you from the school, and that'll help too. Yes, please.
The contents of your report card, are they the same for all the grades, kindergarten on up, or kindergarten is different?
That's a great question. So kindergarten and grade 1 have the same because they're really working on those foundational skills that we talked about. As the students get older, so in kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, they're learning how to read. The grades 3, 4, and 5, they have those foundational skills. We want them to have those foundational skills. So now they're reading more. So we have things like comprehension, and the writing gets a little bit more detailed. But it's all building. So we start out with foundational so that they have a very strong foundation in reading and writing and math and spelling, so that when they get older, they had a foundation to build. So you'll see some of these, some of the categories are a little bit different because the students are learning more, and so it can't be captured with maybe 1 or 2 words. You've had more today. You're welcome. Anything else about the report cards? Let's look. So let's talk about some strategies that you can do. And I would bet that a lot of you already started it. This isn't a new strategy. The big thing is if you're going and meeting the teacher, whether it's on Zoom or talking on the phone or texting back and forth, that is a huge way for you to support your child. It's very important for our children to see if you take time to talk to the teacher, call the teacher, text the teacher. That's showing that you think your child's education is very important. And that is a huge gift you can give to them, just by your attention to it. Also, if you read to your children, again, that can be in your home language, it does not have to be in English. So reading to your child is a huge gift. They enjoy it. It's very different than being on a Nook or a computer. It's when they're sitting in your lap or next to you or on the floor, and we're just doing old-fashioned, yes, yes, definitely. Just reading. And then stopping and asking them questions about it. That is huge. That is so important for them to do, and that just cannot be underestimated. And they really enjoy it. And when you're reading to them again, you're showing them what's important. You're saying it is important to read. I'm reading to you now, but I'm hoping that you're going to want to read for yourself when you're more age. Encouraging, talking with your child. We talked about that. Listening, talking to them. You can do it so casually. You're not asking them, what's this letter? What's this letter? 2 times 4, 8 times 8, right? Just talking. Just talking. So if you're walking to the store, you say, I wonder how many steps it is to the store. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. And you're just counting. And then you say, were you surprised? Did you know we walked 95 steps to the store? That was right. So you're just asking questions and then listening to them come up with the answer, asking them to predict. Please, please, if you're having difficulty, if your child's having difficulty with homework, do not suffer. Do not suffer quietly. A lot of the words that we might have learned in school are now called something different. For example, when I was in school, we would say borrowing, right? So I would go to the tens column and I would borrow. And now they call that regrouping. So if you're trying to teach your child how to do math and you're using words they're not familiar with, you might see some tears because now they've got the language at school and the language at home. So please feel free to ask your child's teacher, what do you call this now? How do you explain it so that you can help them? I will tell you too, the Ferguson Library has some resources for us to help our children with homework. They have a homework helpline, they have tutoring, and that can be done in more than one language. You can also, we also encourage you to apply, if you haven't already, for a report card. No, don't apply for a report card. For a library card at the library. You can do that online, and you can also do that old-fashioned way, pencil and paper. You don't need a birth certificate. You just need to fill it out. We do have over here. We do have some forms for you to fill out that you can take back to the library or send to the library. If you want to leave them with me, I'll make sure they get to the library for you. If you don't have a library card, it'd be a great time to sign up for one too. They're free, and then you can show your child that reading is important to you because when they're reading, you're reading as well. All right, so please feel free to take one of these. I'll put them over here. Again, you can do it online. You can bring it to the library or leave it with me. I'll bring it to the library for you. Stamford Public Schools also has a parent university. That's some very easy ways to figure out how to navigate at the Stamford Public School website and looking at how do I get my parent portal, how do I sign up for things like that? How do I change the language from English to any other language? When you go onto the Parent University, those are filled with parent resources. And many of them are created by parents like you. So they're looking at it from the point of a parent. So please go online and look for that as well. And if you haven't done it yet, it's got a lot of information. So please check that out. They also have children's resources, I forgot to mention, at the library too. A lot of books you can read online, on Kindle, on your phone. But I'm old school. I want to touch, I want to smell the book. I like that, but they also have other ones. Yes, me.
Question regarding the reading.
Mhm.
Are there certain types of questions to ask the child after you read or read a page and then you want to ask them?
That's a really good question. I have some cards that I can share out. So Lauren, would you remind me? I can get those cards and we can send them to families either electronically, whatever. But yes, there's definitely some questions that you can ask when you're reading that are pretty universal for all books. We really just want to have the children thinking as a reader, not just reading. I'm done with it, right? We want to slow it down and have them think about what they're reading so they'll be better readers. When we read, maybe some of you see pictures in your brain, like if I say the word apple, you see an apple in your brain? So that's something that we have to learn to do. So when children are reading or adults are reading, it's very helpful if they can picture what they're reading in their mind. So it's good for us to help slow that down and ask them, what do you see in your mind right now? If I say the word beach ball, hear the wind. Do you feel like you're at the beach? So we want to get our kids used to hearing things and then picturing it in their brains too. That's very helpful for them to read. It puts purpose to it. All right, so let's talk about those strategies. I think that's why you're doing. What can I do to help my child? So when we were talking about print concepts, and that's really books, here are some things you can do. When you're reading to your child, use languages top and bottom and same and different and first and last. That'll help them learn those terms. Those are terms that the teacher is using in the classroom, and it's very helpful if you're using that at home. And say again, you can do this in your home language. It does not have to be in English. It will not confuse your child to hear a word at home in Spanish and a word at school in English. And like, where do I belong? Am I right? It's a gift. When they have two words to mean the same thing, libro, book, they know two things now. You've given them two words for the same thing. It will not confuse them. It'll make them better. They'll have a richer vocabulary and they'll have more words that they can repeat and say. So please know that. So if I'm reading a book and my child is next to me, I might say, point to the top of the book. And they'll point to the top. Point to the bottom of the book. Where's the first? Where's the cover? Where's the back cover? If you just do that as before you start, those very fast 3 or 4 questions, then when the teacher's doing it, they're like, the cover, the front, the back, the top, and that'll help them. That gets them ready to read. Have you ever handed a child a book and it's upside down? Right? You've got to train their eye to know which way to start. And then when we open the book, how am I going to open this book? We're going to open it this way. Where will I start reading? I read this page first. Then where do I go? Then where do I go? Then where do I go? So thumbs up. Do we have to do that in English only? Any language you're speaking at home, you can do these skills. It's great for them. So we talked about the top and the bottom. Oh, the first word in a sentence. You have a point to the first word. Then where do I go? What's the last word? The reason we're doing that is when I'm talking, everything is one long word to them. They do not hear beginning, middle, and end. So we've got to train them to know that When there's white in between, that's a new word. And when I'm reading, I'm going here to here to here to here. Just little skills so they know where we're reading. Oh, tracking. When they're reading, just that they're tracking the words. That's what that means, tracking. All right. Strategies to support oral language. Remember, oral language is them being able to get an idea in their brain and then saying it out loud, saying it to you. So this is a lot. There's a lot of words. But let me just summarize it for you. When you're riding a bus, look out the window and just start asking questions. What do you see? How do you say, what do you see? They might say, I see a building. Don't say anything. Let them keep going. I see a building that looks like a Target building. Say nothing. Let them keep talking. I see the Target sign, it's red. I wonder what they have in Target. And all of a sudden, then they start talking to you. So we've kind of trained our kids. I say something, you say something. I say something, you say something. If you don't say anything, they'll keep talking. And that's a very good thing. We want them to be able to say the words and think about it. Sometimes they'll get stuck on a word. Or they'll say a word instead of say Target. They'll say Target. And you say, oh, yes, you're right. I do see Target. You just say the word the way it is. Right? Very easy. As you're fixing dinner, ask your child to help you follow the steps. What do I do next? I've got a bowl. What do I need? What am I going to strain a bowl with? I'm going to say nothing. And then I'm going to say, a spoon. You're going to need a spoon. Can you get it for me? And while you're walking, count the steps to the counter. 1, 2, 3, 4, spoon. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we've got to stir 10 times. Stir 10 times for me. The counter. 1, 2, 3. Because they're practicing math like that, right? And they're practicing sequence. I don't start stirring when there's nothing in the bowl. I've got to get something to go in the bowl first. All those things that you're doing are helping them be able to retell a story. And that is something that they'll be doing in school. So you're setting the foundation for it. If you're fixing a sink or repairing a broken table, ask you, give me a hammer. You give me a wrench. I do need a wrench, but I need a hammer. You put that back down and get a hammer. You're teaching them what's important. You're teaching them words. You're teaching them skills that you can do that they can't do. And you may not appreciate this when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But believe me, when they're 12 and you do something they don't do, you'll be good. Because they'll start to think, gosh, mommy and dad, auntie and uncle, I know more than they do. No, you know different things than they do. We want to celebrate that. So anything you can do to show them your world, please do that. It's important for them. As you're watching TV, ask them about the programs they're watching. Oh my gosh, why did she do that? What do you think is going to happen next? Were you surprised when were you wondering what, just asking that? And then what do you do with your mouth? Show me. Right, let them do the talking. Let them figure it out. And then again, and you mentioned to me, what questions can we ask? I'll send those to you, but we're just not reading a book, start to finish. And then going, we're asking questions as we're reading it to help them see the pictures in their brain. Okay? And again, all can be done in the home language you speak at home. Please do that. We encourage you to do that. If I was reading a book in Spanish, it would not be pretty. I would be stumbling over the words. I would be mispronouncing words. That would not help my child at all. When I read to my children, I'm reading in English because that's my language. When you're reading to your children, if it's another language you speak at home, please do it in your language so they're hearing what good readers sound like. If you're reading like this, so will they. We want them to read more fluently.
Question.
Yes, please.
With the smaller kids that don't know how to read, are we giving them the book and letting them tell us the story?
That's a great way of doing it. Yeah, there's a lot to do with the book and only one of them is reading. There's plenty you can do with the book. You can talk about the book as we talked about, front, back of the cover. We can have them look at the pictures. We can cover up the words and say, tell me what's going on in this picture. Tell me if you had to write this book, what would it be? I know that a lot of families will get magazines and they'll tear out pictures of magazines or use flyers from restaurants and say, here, put this together and make a book and write your own book. And it will be perfect. It'll be their book. And then they can read you their own book because it's their book and they've written it.
Where can I get ideas like that? I just told you. I know, but that was.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
For the interpretation.
You're welcome.
Speak louder. When you ask questions. speak louder
Oh, yes,
so I can
compliment me
interpret.
so everyone can hear, please. What was that? I'm sorry, what was that compliment? Well, thank you. Yeah, a lot of it is just paying attention to the kids. Because if I would give them a book that they can't read, they would be frustrated.
But I'm talking about
About-
the idea to come up with the magazine, pulling up stuff like where can parents get little ideas like that?
I think you all talking to each other are gonna get a lot of ideas from each other. Like, I think all of our kids are, around about same age, and you say, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, my child does not like to read. What can I do to make my child want to read? And people in this room will not judge you. They will say, oh, yeah, mine too. Here's what I have to do. So I would just say, talk to people around you. Your librarians at the Ferguson Library are a great resource. You can go and say to them, my child's not reading and I don't want that to continue. Can you help? They have ideas too. But you'll see my information at the end. I'm happy to answer. We'll come up. Yes.
Well, I was gonna tell her that what I did when my son was younger, like in kindergarten, I got a library card and I let my son go in the library and pick what books he was interested in. Because the bad thing is like when you want to read to a child something that they don't want to hear. So now he's in 7th grade, he writes his own comics. And he started like his own club at school. Just doing like comics with his own stories. So he loves reading.
Yeah.
But I let him read whatever he wanted. He wanted to read Diary of the Wimpy Kid. That's why he read the whole series, and every year he looks forward to the books coming out. But that's like the library is a trip that we take like every 2 weeks. We go and we get like 10 books.
Mhm.
We read all of them, and then we get more. We borrow more books.
Okay. Remember too, kids can read things, not just books. They can read cereal boxes. They can read signs. We call that, environmental print. My daughter, I'm sad to say, the first word she could read was McDonald's. It really reflect well on me as a teacher, but that's the first word she could read because she saw it in her world all the time. So all that is reading, all of it is. So yeah, I bet you're doing things you don't even know you're doing that are helping your children read. But I will say again, if you're not getting books in the library yourself, or sitting with them and reading a magazine or looking through a cookbook, when they see you do it, they'll start doing it too. And even if the book is sideways or wrong, they want to be like you. So they'll do where you put your value, they'll put their value. Right? Reading is just so important. Thanks for sharing.
I was thinking maybe if the Ferguson Library had like a reading corner or
Mhm.
something on their website that says, these are the tips or these are tools if your kid is kindergarten or,
So let me talk with Elizabeth McKay. She's a really good resource at Ferguson Library. And let me see if she already has something. And if so, I'll share that with Lauren. who can send it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, someone knows the secret now. We don't have to figure out everything by ourselves. It is families and parents. Yeah, they know. All right, so that's how we get them to talk. Okay, so phonological awareness, big word. Phonological is just what you're hearing, right? So we're just going with what you're hearing. So you can do any of these strategies with their eyes closed. You're not bringing out a single letter. You can have them turn away from it. It's not any, it's what they're hearing. All right, so here's a couple of examples. Say the word apple. Say the word apple, everybody. Apple. Now put a at the beginning. The word is maple. Did that sound strange for anybody? They're like, wait, what? Kids can do it much faster than we can because our ears are not trained for that. A lot of us went from listening to reading, and we didn't have that stop with the phonological awareness piece, but it is really a huge indicator of our kids being good at reading. Because all of the big words are little words put together that they have to put together. So they need to be able to hear the sounds. Here's another one. Say the word book. Book. What's the first sound we hear? Book, book, book. Say the word libro. What's the first sound we hear? Yeah. So just asking them the first sound they hear. That's something we could do at the beginning when they get really good. You say libro. Say libro. What do you hear at the end of the word? Oh, libro. Oh. Right, but they have to train themselves. We have to train ourselves too, because that does not come easy. That is a new skill for a lot of us. All right, so then we're going to say, I'm going to say a word, cot. I want cot. I want you to say the three sounds you hear. Blend it, cot. And look what I did. I said, and I put it together, cot. So first we break it apart, then we put it back together. So just little tricks like that. You can do that if you're in the car with them and you're going to a soccer game. And they say, we're going to the soccer game. Yes, I know we're going to the soccer game. Are you excited? I'm excited. Say nothing. See what happens next. I'm excited because last time I did it, I almost scored a goal, and I really want to do that again this time. Say nothing. See what they say next. So now this time I'm going to try to run really fast. Oh, you're going to run fast. How many syllables do we hear in fast? Everyone get your chin down. Put your finger on your chin, like this. Say the word fast. Fast. How many times did your chin go down? Fast. One. It has one syllable. Sometimes we clap, say fast. Clap it fast, and they go fast. Stop it, stop it, stop it. You didn't hear these sounds, right? Let's try it again. Fast. Everyone say fast. Say rapido, rapido. And they're like rapido. No. Okay. Slow down, slow down. So if we drop our chin, every time you drop your chin, that's a syllable. So do rapido. Rapido. How many?
3 times.
3 syllables, 3 times. Right? So remember, you drop your chin. And when your chin drops, it's a new syllable. And so we saw that we do that in Spanish and in English. Please do it in Spanish too. All right, so go back to that word cot. Say cot. You're like, and you just say, oh, a cot, that's like a little bed, like a day bed. Or when your cousins come over, sometimes they sleep on a cot. We don't have enough beds. Nobody does. So we put them on a cot. So then we say, take away the k and put it at the beginning. So like, cot. Take away the k and put it. That's my word. Tot. Tot. And we say, a tot is a baby. The little sister's a tot. She can't do much. She's a tot. She just kind of walks around. She's a tot. She's learning. So those are things we can do to get them phonologically attuned. And one more thing, ask them about rhyming. So you say, I'm going to say 3 words. Here are my 3 words. Book, look, box. What are the 2 words that have the same ending? Book, look. Look, I can do it in Spanish. Pero, azul, cero. What words sound the same at the end? Pero, cero. So you can do it in any language. Any language. And sometimes get the answer wrong so they can correct you. Let them know more, just for a little while. All right, any questions on how to support your children at home?
Las tareas de trabajo que dejan para la casa, utilizar el traductor del teléfono ayuda en el sonido.
Si puede ser la pregunta.
Las tareas que dejan para la casa, ¿no? Cuando uno los ayuda a ellos es bueno, es recomendable utilizar el traductor del teléfono para escuchar el sonido y que ellos entiendan.
So the homework that's being sent home, would you recommend or is it good to use the translator or the translation app on the phone? Will that be helpful to use? Is that something that you recommend?
Helpful for the child or for the parent? Will we help it?
Bueno, el padre, como no sabe el inglés, busca la ayuda en el teléfono para ayudarle al niño, a que el niño aprenda. Es una tarea que le dejan para la casa.
So this will be the parents, because the parent does not speak English, will use the phone for help. So to be able to understand the homework, it's the homework and just being able to understand what's being said.
Well, yeah, that does help. Whenever we can help our kids by knowing what they're learning, that's going to help them. So if it's helpful for you to use your phone, use it. If it's helpful for you to call the Ferguson Library and do the homework help, it can help families too. So if you call them and say, oh my word, my fourth grader has homework, I can't do it. I've never seen it. They will help adults too. So please feel free to call them. And remember, it can be in another language too. It's not just helping in English, they can help in other languages also. So I would say, know that Ferguson Library on speed dial, because those librarians are very smart and they can help get you some more information. But absolutely, yes, you can use your phone, you can use people, whatever helps you understand your child's homework. Absolutely. Definitely. And we thank you for doing homework with this, because I will be honest. My children as a teacher, and my daughter in McDonald's the first one. I will tell you, sometimes I'm embarrassed to say, the last thing I wanted to do when they got home from my long day, from their long day, was homework. So if I'm just being honest, so if your child is going to an after-school program, please encourage homework to be done after school for a couple of reasons. One, your child is fresh. Because and I don't mean fresh like sassy. I mean fresh like they just finished school so that they're ready to continue learning. Because sometimes, and all kids are different, but sometimes when they come home and have done something else, and then you want them to go back to working at school, there's some resistance. Everyone's like, yeah. So you know your child best. Some kids need a break, and then they'll start back with school. And some kids just need to power through it and do it while they're their after school program. And I would just encourage you, if your child does go to an after school program, to also let them help your child with homework. Now, when they get home, certainly ask them, tell me about your homework. What was hard about your homework? Because you want to be part of it too. Remember the triangle. And I guess it really should be a square, because your community center where they're going after school is also part of that. But I just don't want people to stress when you get home from a hard day at work and your child's put in 7 hours at school to wait until 9 o'clock to do homework. That's a big ask. And I don't know that you'll be able to get your child's best work at that time. So if there's a way to do it differently, we might want to think about that. Ask your child's teacher about the homework too, and be honest. If your child's taking a long time to do the homework, just say, listen, I don't know if you know this, but we're spending 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and now we're on homework. Is that what we're supposed to be doing? Is that how long you thought it was going to take? Because if the teacher thought it was going to be done in a very short amount of time, and your child's taking longer, it's going to help your child if you tell her it's taking longer.
For the parents in here that have older kids, does the teacher put the homework on the parent portal? They post them?
Not usually. I know when we were doing a lot of hybrid work and when we were distance learning, a lot of teachers maintained a Google Classroom. And that's another great question to ask. What if my child misses? How will I know what they can do at home for their homework? That's another question we could put up as a question to ask. Some of our teachers are still maintaining their Google Classroom, and other teachers are not maintaining it. So it's a good idea to ask your child's teacher. What should I do when my child misses a day?
It's not even really just this day, in general, how can the parents follow up and make sure the kid is doing the actual quote unquote homework? That's fine. Kids say, "Well, I don't have any homework."
Oh.
Yeah, so how did the
That's a good question. So what happens when you don't know what the child's homework is? Where can we find out? That's another great question to ask. So just be, listen, you're not going to tell your teacher, your child's teacher, anything that's going to make anybody except for the child. Would a child go home and say, yes, I have an hour and a half of homework. I'm not going to play soccer. I want to do my homework. Yes, they all want to do their homework. But some children want to do things more than their homework. So when you need to know what the homework is, ask them. So how can I find out? How can I support my child by making sure they've done their homework? Where will I find the homework? Are you sending home a packet? Do you put it on a reminder? Do you put it on a Google Classroom? Because all teachers may be doing it differently. So just ask your teacher, what can I do? Where can I find the homework so I make sure my child does it? And again, what a great gift you're giving your child, because you're saying, I believe you, you're a lovable child, but I want to make sure you go to school tomorrow with everything done. But again, remember what I said, if you think your child's homework is taking too long, please talk to your teacher about that. All right, so I see Lauren standing, and we'll just see what else. Oh, so here's my information. Please feel free to email me. I'm happy to talk with families. I'm happy to give you some more suggestions or some help. There are a lot of good resources at your child's school. I encourage you, if you haven't already, talk to your parent facilitator. Please do that. They are very big on helping families help their kids be successful at school. I just want to say too, thank you in multiple languages. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for considering spending time with me to find ways to support your children. Katie's passing something out. Lauren, up to you.
Thank you so much,
You're
Cynthia,
welcome.
and thank you all again for coming. Before you leave, we would love to get your feedback. So let us know what was helpful tonight, what wasn't helpful tonight, and most importantly on the survey. And for those of you online, I put it in the chat. And you can choose which language you want the survey in the upper right corner. If the screen, there's a little arrow, it says English, you can choose Spanish if you'd like to do the survey in that language. We'd like to know what other topics would you like to have a similar session on? Cynthia mentioned the library with tons of resources. We could do a session where we bring in Liz from the library to walk you through all the great resources they have. We could dive into some of the topics Cynthia mentioned tonight to practice different ways to encourage speaking and listening for your child, or ways practicing reading a book and asking questions. If there are other topics you'd like, we'd like to know what you want, and then we'll help make that happen. And finally, after tonight, we will email out the presentation. You have it in hard copy, but that way, if you want it electronically, we'll email the recording of tonight's session in case you'd like to listen to it or go back to anything. We'll email the cards Cynthia said with some good questions to ask after reading. And also just wanted to let you know on our website at Stamford Cradle to Career, and I'll include it in the email as well. We have a calendar of activities in the community, not only our activities, but other free community activities. We're trying to be a resource for you all to help support your children and their education. If you have suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Also, my colleague Tashi, who's in the back, has a WhatsApp group if you prefer to get notifications via WhatsApp. We have an email group. Or you could just follow us on social media at Stanford C2C. But thank you again for coming tonight. We do have some additional resources on the table about other information we have through Cradle to Career or our partner at United Way. We're happy to share some of those resources with you. And there is extra food, so if you and some Ziploc bags. So if you like any food, feel free to take some. And Cynthia has the library applications for library cards as well. They're right here on the front table or on the way out. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to those of you online for coming as well. We hope you have a wonderful evening.
Or do you want to?
Yo lo que pasa es que me saqué eso es lo que yo hago. Porque me gusta ahí, porque ya mismo lo conozco desde pequeño, cuando antes del COVID había mucha actividad. Así que él iba toda la actividad. Regresó, pero